Hey guys, what's up? It's Tristan here again. I know I haven't made a tutorial in a little bit. There was a couple reasons for that. So I kind of lost my face cam, so I wanted to make high quality videos, but because I lost it, uh, I'm back because I don't think that's a good excuse to not make videos. I'm just gonna make videos no matter what quality they are. It doesn't really matter that much. The information is what matters. And also, I felt like because I had no release tracks so far, and I'm just kind of like um and I just didn't feel comfortable with my own work 100%. Like I had found my style like 100%. I didn't feel confident in sharing like what I've learned about music production, but I also don't think that that's a good excuse either because I can still help other people even if I haven't finished my own goals yet because it's all a process and there's not really ever an end point in music production. You never just like finish. So it's better to start than to never do it. So today I'm just going to show you guys how to make really good chord progressions and melodies, at least to my ear, and hopefully I make something good here. I'm going to do this all uncut, all from scratch. Um, I might do a sound tutorial later. I made this sound. I guess it's still here. I'm not going to use it for anything, but oh wait, that's not even the preset. Oh well. Well, I'll do a sound design tutorial later. But yeah, let's just make some chords and stuff. So I'm gonna pull up Flex because it has a okay piano. It's not super good, but um and if you're wondering why I picked the light piano, it conveniently loads half a second faster than the other one. So anyways, yeah, so let's get started. So when I make melodies and chords, the first thing I like to do, there's two ways that you can do this. So the first way is you can choose a scale or you can not choose a scale, and each one has their benefits. But I do like having all my notes highlighted, and if you want to do that, just go up to here, click view, and then I believe it's somewhere here. Keyboards, yeah, key labels, all notes. That's where that is. But there's another option here that I want to look at, and that's helpers. And helpers has one of my favorite options in here, scale highlighting, and I always have this on automatic, unless unless I don't. And then I'll put it on default or on one of the scales, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So if I put it on default, it's not going to there's going to be no darker notes, as you can see. And what I mean by darker notes is if I put on automatic, you'll see it'll darken the ones that are off key. So this is G sharp major, and basically what that means is that the three notes I picked, it uses FL Studio is like, okay, you pick these three notes, and the most common notes that are in this musical scale is G sharp major. So okay, now it changed to D sharp major because I picked another note, but it changes automatically with which notes you choose. So that's pretty cool. So like if I have a melody in my head and it goes like da 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 da, da or something like that, like if I write out those notes, it'll actually like know what scale it's in. So like in my head, it puts it on the piano roll within in scale. But there's a couple reasons why you may not want to do this as well, and one of those being that not all the time does your brain work in the same scale. So maybe you have an idea, but then it progresses into another scale. And that I've had that happen before. And I'm like, oh, why can't I make my melody that I had in my head? And it's because I chose a scale over here. So like, let's say I made my melody in F sharp major, and I was like, oh, this melody sounds amazing. But then it goes up to like G sharp major or something. I don't know. Like it just, yeah, it's happened to me before because my brain doesn't always work in one scale. Like it's sometimes it's not, it's too restricting. So if you feel confident and you are get better at making melodies and chords, I also suggest that when things start feeling stagnant, like you do the same thing over and over again, or like you can't really make anything new, hit default and don't have any scales and just do it off of ear. This is a really good exercise. I know we haven't made any melodies or chords yet, but I think it's important to lay the groundwork real quick just so that you guys get a good understanding of like ways to start, because if you start on the wrong foot, you're probably not going to get very far. So we can make a melody both ways. We can do one by ear and one by scale. But first of all, before I make my melodies, well, it depends. So sometimes if I have a melody in my head when I'm in the shower or in bed or something, I'll record it on my phone and then I send it to my email, and then I pull it up and I just draw out the melody from my humming. If I don't do that, I start with chords, and I feel like the chords really lay the feelings for the track, and I don't know, like they set the vibe. So like the way the chords are kind of influence the way the melody goes. But sometimes I have to fit the chords to the melodies that are in my head. So it varies. But without any more talking, let's get started. So video starts now, by the way. Let's pick a scale first, and then after we will do it the other way. So a lot of people don't like using the major scale. I like using the major scale, but we can choose something else. So we can do the minor scale because I don't do it very often. So let's try something new. So, and I always experiment, guys. It's really helpful for not keeping things fresh. So like choose somewhere I haven't been very often. Let's go like E minor, because this will be different. So first thing I do when I lay out chords, and I think that this is the best way to do it, and there's many ways you can make chords, but I find this much easier, my method. And my method is I lay the bass notes first. So if I want my progression to go da, no, that's not good. That's a very, very basic chord progression. But if I wanted it to be that, then what would happen is I would put notes on top of that and like have that be my chord progression. Some people, they don't do that. They'll like make the first chord and then they'll make the second chord and the third chord, and that works too, but I find it easier to lay out the bass notes, because that's like, if you get the bass notes the way you like it, then that like is like, okay, this is the direction you want your chord progression to go, and then everything just kind of goes on top. So like you start with the low end and then you like build up in like everything, and I find that to be the easiest in my opinion. But yeah, so let's get started. I don't know if you want to use this progression. It's very, very simple. Let's just think a little bit. And also, guys, you don't always have to start on the E. Like, okay, so for instance, this is E minor. If I have a chord progression, it doesn't need to start on the E. I really thought that for a long time, but once I started learning more music theory, you don't need to do that. In fact, it's more. That's why I was not being able to make a lot of chords, because you don't have to start on the E. You can start on other things. So let's start like maybe on the C. I don't know. It's too. Okay, so I'm happy with this progression. Now, depending on the genre you want to make, there's a couple different ways you can have your chords. And I really don't like to think about this too much when I'm making music, because whatever comes to me, I like making that instead of making genre music. I don't like really doing that. And you can if you want, but I never tell myself I'm going to make future bounce or I'm going to make future bass. I just want to make music. That's what I do. So whatever happens, happens. And it just kind of goes the way it's most natural to me, because I feel like that's the most best expression of myself. So one thing you might want to be aware of though is, if like for instance, if you want to make future bounce, this was really like making this difficult for me for a long time. The melodies and chord progressions, they tend to be this in every single song, and there's a reason why. You want to have the chords like this and if you're making future bounce, you want the chords to be offset like this every other off the line. And the reason you want to do that is because it adds this bounciness, and without that, it's not like even future bounce. It's like really monotone and boring. So if I bring it down to like 128, you'll see what I mean. Turn on the metronome. See how it bounces? Without that, it's just da 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 or whatever, and it's like super boring. Also another way Another way you can do that is to have it do it on like this, like, and have it chop like that, but in the middle of this, and that's the most common thing I've seen for that genre. So if we want to make a future bounce song at 128, we can make chord progressions for that. So I'm just gonna, the only reason I'm picking a genre for this chord progression is that way, like, I feel like future bounce is like the rhythms and the chord progressions are the most complicated. So if you can learn them it'll make everything easier, because basically I feel like every kind of melody making is easier, in my opinion, than future bounce, especially with all the slide notes that go into it, and the rhythms of the bass and the melody is just so complicated sometimes. Like, if you can figure out this, you'll be set for anything else. And also, I feel like learning the rhythms of future bounce really opens up your horizons when you're making other music, that you can really like implement the rhythms and like the bounciness of that into other genres is really cool. Okay, so we got notes down. Cool. We actually kind of started putting stuff down, which took forever. Sorry about that. So how do I make my chords? So we get the bass line. Now, there's a couple ways I've seen you can do it. You can put these notes an octave higher and then just start stacking. And that's definitely one way you can do it. So say I want to... So I could do that. So, and then you just start stacking. So since we have picked a scale, I can just start picking notes in the white area that sound good. So yeah, you can do stuff like that. And right now I'm hitting Control L to get it lengthened all the way. I'm hitting Alt right click to play the chords. So yeah, let's make chord progression real quick. I might speed this process up, or I might slow it. But whatever. Let's keep going. And I just like to keep adding chords because it adds like emotions to it. Okay. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I ended up using this G, E, F, G, an octave lower, an octave higher. So that's another trick you guys can do. And I do this subconsciously a lot, but I notice it works a lot. Is you can get away with octaving things higher in certain areas. You just have to kind of know when you can do it. So like if you do the bass notes, you can do the bass notes an octave higher the first time, and then after that you put these notes over the bass notes, and then you can also do those an octave higher, and then you can kind of fill the stuff in the middle, and then like it just sounds good. So I might change this top right here. Oh crap. Whoops. Okay, there we go. So now I might want to make a rhythm on it, or I might want to make a melody. Just depends on what I want to do. So I feel like the rhythm is the most important thing when you're making melodies. It's the catchy thing. And if you study this for yourself, as I have, you'll find that the rhythm is what you remember more than the notes. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you, it really just is how it is. I don't know how else to say it. Like, I'm trying to think of a song like da 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 I don't know, like just random song. I don't even know what song that is, but it's stuck in my head because like the rhythm's so catchy. Like, or what if I have something like that? I don't know. Okay, so it goes. Okay, so let's do that. Just popped in my head. I don't know how else to say it. Like that's just what I do. I just sing over it, even if it sounds out of tune. It doesn't matter. So. Wait, hold on. I think it's actually like this. Wait. Maybe I'm wrong. I think I am. Da 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 da. So let's just kind of da 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 da. Okay, cool. So just kind of chop the notes up. And the reason I'm doing the rhythm before the melody is because it popped in my head. Sometimes I'll make the melody first. It really just do whatever's comfortable for you, and whatever happens. You'll not always do everything the same, and that's important when you're making music, to not do the same thing over and over again. Otherwise, you won't make any progress. And I like to change the notes, the last note before it transitions to the chords. It makes it cool. And then so this is important, and this is where your melodies are going to get more catchy or less catchy. So pick a structure and know that structure from the beginning and what you want to do with it. So what does that mean? If a structure is like A, B, A, C, so bar one is A. This is the rhythm for A. Da, da. Okay, so it's da 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 da. Okay, so what am I gonna do? If it's A, B, A, C, then 3 is gonna be A again. So it's gonna go the exact same rhythm as part A over here. So we have A, B, A, C, and that's how I want you to think of melodies when you're starting out. And you can get to more advanced structuring, and that'll really diversify your music and make it really interesting. But for right now, the ABAC is the most common, and it's there's everywhere in music, and it's never really gets old, to be honest. It really doesn't. You can get so many cool melodies doing ABAC. There's artists that only do ABAC, so it's not very limiting at all. But I like to go out of the box a lot, so do whatever is comfortable for you again. But for sure, start out like this because it's just the easiest. So, and you'll see what I mean. Oh, I didn't want to record. My bad. Okay, so that's cool. Okay, so we have. And I want it to go dun 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 dun. So I want it to cut in half here. So. Okay, cool. So we got a decent chord progression and a melody, or not even a melody, but just a chord progression. So one thing that you can do is you can take the chords, and you can move them up an octave higher. Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does. Depends on the song. Okay, I'm happy with that. That sounds okay. That sounds decent. Now, my friend gave me this preset, and I've been using it ever since to make melodies, and at least for future bounce. And this is especially what I like to do because basically this preset that he made is it's just really easy to make melodies with because it bends. It has a nice bend to it. So like when you're doing those slide notes and future bounce and stuff, it's really easy to have just something like this that bends. But yeah, so let's just make a melody. So how do I make my melodies? Well, first of all, I like to have this an octave higher for me. Oh, maybe not that high. What the heck? Maybe I don't want an octave higher. Okay, that's good. So when you make melodies, there's something that I've learned in music theory, and this is just what yeah. So if you're in E minor, if you start on E, the melody will probably not be as exciting. It might actually be exciting in this position only because we didn't start our chord on the E. But if you learn music theory, you'll understand more that you want to start, I believe it's on the 5th. Sounds the most natural and the best. But that's up to your interpretation. But experiment with not just starting on E every time. Maybe you want to start higher, but figure out what note sounds good to start on, because that's what you're going to base the rest of the melody on. So let's just do that real quick. Okay, so I like it on D. You don't have to have it on D if you're doing it along with me. You can do it on whatever you want. But let's just see what comes to our head. Okay, so interestingly, I already know I can do this. Why? Because the top notes I added aren't the bass notes of the chord progression. What does that mean? Well, what I mean is that these notes that are the top of the chord notes aren't the same as the bass notes. And that's good because you want your leads and your basses to harmonize. Because if they're on the same notes, it's going to be really, really boring. Here, let me show you. It doesn't sound off key, but it just does not have the same amount of feeling that this does. So yeah, so you can this is a good way to start melodies. You don't have to do it like this. You can go a little bit off. You can like move this one down. And I like building the bridges is what I like, I guess I call it, before I make my melody, because I know the direction it's going to go. Similarly how I lay my bass notes out when I'm starting off. So yeah. So now let's let's get the rhythm the same. So it goes dun dun dun. Okay, cool. So let's make a melody. Okay, so we have a melody that is not awful, but really boring. So what can we do to spice this melody up? For one, I don't really like having a lot of long notes in my melodies, so let's kind of shorten these up. Let's kind of see what this is. Maybe I need this long one. So. All right, so I made a big mistake. I'm pretty sure I had the rhythm off the entire time. I think it's actually 2 segments and not 1 segment. For what I was trying to do, and that was really confusing me for the rhythm and the melody. I was like so confused. So I'm back after figuring that out. So these things will happen to you, and nobody's perfect. So let's just kind of work through it and see what we can come up with now. Now that we got it more relevant. So whatever, more better. This melody's very cliche. So, we made a melody, made a chord progression, we made a bass line. Just kidding, no we didn't. How am I going to make a bass line with this? So, what do all popular kids in school do? They do this. Doink. Alright, so alright, cool. So once you get the drum loop of kick and clap that you've made, slap a bass on there, and then just stick it on there. You have yourself a half decent melody and song. Okay, sick, dude. Okay, so thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I could do tutorials on how to do chords and melodies for other genres if you want. But I hope you at least learned something. I hope that you got basics for building unique chord progressions. Remember, don't always pick a scale. Experiment with going out of scale. If you want to make a melody, just make sure it doesn't follow the bass line at least 100% of the time, because that'd just be super boring. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys learned something, and I didn't expect to make like kind of like a drop out of this, but it just kind of happened. So yeah, you know, if you experiment, this is the kind of stuff that happens. So I want you guys to go out, and I want you guys to try this. Like, get on your computers, do this, because if you do this, then like you're putting the practice in. You're not just watching a bunch of YouTube videos on how to get better, because that's not gonna get you any better. You get better once you start actually practicing. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you learned at least something. I'm sorry I talk so much and I just don't like do it very much, but I'm gonna make more videos. I hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.